With Greg Lawless, I'm Jason Zghini. Welcome to another edition of Transfer Watch. It has been a busy offseason, and it continued with a huge move this week. Eddie Johnson being shipped from the Seattle Sounders to DC United. And Greg, as Dave Casper and Ben Olsen rebuild this DC United team, they got one of the hardest things to find in all of MLS, or maybe the world of soccer, a proven goal scorer.
Yeah, it's exactly what they needed too. They had a tremendously futile offensive season in 2013. They needed some goals. They got a guy who's good for 12 to 15 goals a season, and maybe more if he gets the right service. The question about Eddie Johnson, we saw it in Seattle, we've seen it before in other teams as well, is what does it mean for the locker room? And that's a question Ben Olsen really will have to answer.
Well, I think he might have answered it last week when he picked up veterans Bobby Boswell, Davey Arno, and Sean Franklin, proven winners in this league, but also good locker room guys, which maybe set the base for this DC team headed into next year.
Yeah, great guys. They all have experience in the league. They've won MLS Cups, not just been to them, they've won them. But I think it really comes down to Olsen. He's a guy who knows Eddie Johnson, brought him into the All-Star game in Philly in 2012, was always a great locker room guy himself. It's the make or break year for Olsen, and I think he needs to get the locker room right. Made some great moves so far. Now it has to translate into results.
Well, he's got another big one coming up at the Super Draft. DC United with the first overall pick. A lot of people pointing to Patrick Mullins, the goal scorer out of the University of Maryland, as the target that they should be looking at. But if Christian Dean, a center back from the University of California, comes out, he would make a great pairing with Bobby Boswell. Again, Dean athletic, Boswell more the cerebral. That's the kind of combination we've seen work over and over in MLS. Keep an eye on that. Another big mover, of course, this offseason, the Seattle Sounders. The Eddie Johnson trade, only a part of what they've been doing this offseason. Since the last transfer watch, they brought in Kenny Cooper. They're expected to sign Tristan Bowen, the other half of that Mauro Rosales trade. And of course, the big get here was probably the allocation money that they got for Eddie Johnson.
And what are they going to do with all that money? That's the question on everybody's mind right now up in the Pacific Northwest is, they have all this money, what are you going to do? You need an attacking midfielder. That's what I think they need to do. Someone who will pull the strings in the midfield and create the chances for all of the weapons they have up top. Clint Dempsey, Kenny Cooper now, and of course Obafemi Martins. They may think that Dempsey can play that creator. I don't think he can. For me, he's a goal scorer. If he plays at the top of a diamond, they're not going to get the chances they need. Put him up top so he can get chances at goal. With Rosales gone, they need someone else who can come and pull the strings.
Yeah, when you look at the Kenny Cooper move, there are some questions there about how Dempsey, Martins, and Cooper all fit on the field at the same time. And I feel like these are the same questions that Seattle had last year when Dempsey came.
Yeah, and for me, it seems pretty simple. Play all three of them up top. Go to a 4-3-3. Alonso can do the work in the midfield defensively, especially with help from Evans. You still need that guy to pull the strings, but put all three of them up top and start pressuring, going at teams as much as possible, and get a bunch of goals. Can Martin stay healthy? I think that's going to be a big question for them this year. All
right, Seattle fans, the question for you is, what do you think of this Kenny Cooper move? Is he the right answer up top for the Sounders? Now let's take a look at some quick hits from around the league. A lot of moves going on here. Greg Berhalter gets his goalkeeper, and it's not Andy Grunbaum. A sign and trade with Seattle Sounders brings Steve Clark to Columbus.
Yeah, and Greg Berhalter basically building this team in his image. Steve Clark did very well in Norway, an American keeper who Berhalter probably knew from his time in Scandinavia and time in Europe. So a good pickup, I think, for the crew.
Clark in Columbus means Andy Grunbaum is out. He's headed to the defending champions, Sporting Kansas City.
And I think that Grunbaum will challenge for the starting position here with Eric Kronberg, but I'm just not sure that Grunbaum is a long-term solution at this position for them.
All right, Kronberg's been there for a while, but Grunbaum with a lot more MLS experience. True. Also going to Sporting, Sal Zizzo from the Portland Timbers.
He brings you a lot of speed. They say they needed some help on the flanks, but he's not going to be in the starting lineup. Good depth, though, for CCL competition.
All right, speaking of depth in CCL, Bobby Convey brought in by Mike Pecky to New York from Toronto.
An upgrade on the flank. I think he can provide service for Cahill and the other guys getting into the box. Question is, does he play at left back or left mid? He wants to play at left mid, but he could be better at left back, I think.
All right, they just re-signed Roy Miller. We'll see what happens in New York.
Give me Convey any day, by the way, on that one.
Finally, speaking of Toronto, they bring in a left back of their own. Justin Morrow headed there from San Jose.
I like Morrow a lot. Good pickup for Toronto. I think it's an upgrade at left back for them. But this really was a salary cap issue for San Jose. They're trying to clear space so they can bring in some other players, some more attacking players.
All right, expecting Beitashour not to resign either. That means they have some holes to fill on the back line in San Jose. That's all we have for Transfer Watch, but stay tuned to MLSsoccer.com for all the coverage of Stage 2 of the reentry draft on Thursday.